it! Hanju couldn't hear a reply for a long time and couldn't help but curse. Jiangyi said faintly, "Is that true?" Actually, I've already held back. Hanju sighed in his heart. I'm still too soft-hearted. Jiangyi took a deep breath and said, "All right. I should indeed cultivate in seclusion." With that, he severed his divine sense connection. Jiangyi's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 6 stars. This fellow is asking for a beating? Hanju found it funny. Putting down the heavenly Dao token, his expression turned solemn. He had accidentally revealed himself. He had to cultivate harder next to prevent Jiangyi from catching up. Hanju didn't want to tell him another story. He continued cursing the enemy while checking his emails. Your good friend Ji Xianshan has obtained a mighty figure's inheritance. His providence has increased greatly. Your grand disciple Fang Liang has obtained a mighty figure's inheritance. His providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Li Daokong has stepped into the zenith heaven realm. 3 flowers gathered above him and his providence has transformed. Your good friend Tai Su Tian has entered the calamity. Your good friend Zhou Fan is surrounded by negative karma. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Duan Hongchen has comprehended the heavenly Tao and has comprehended a mystical power. Your disciple Su Qi was attacked by an ominous aura, X983. Li Daokong reached the zenith heaven realm? Hiss. Not bad. This fellow was already invincible before he stepped into the zenith heaven realm. How strong was he now? Li Daokong's only weakness was Li Shenao. Hanju felt that Li Daokong was not the protagonist. He was more like those impressive legends in novels. He also noticed that Tai Su Tian had entered the tribulation. Could this be the order of the Niwa Imperial Palace? This calamity was definitely related to them. Otherwise, Zhu Tu wouldn't have been angry with the Niwa Imperial Palace. Fortunately, I hid in the 9 nether purgatory. If I was targeted by a sage, it would be troublesome. Hanju thought silently. Tai Su Tian was only interested in him. If he didn't have the system, he wouldn't have known that the Niwa Palace was paying attention to him. He could have easily become a sage's pawn. Just the thought of it made Hanju shiver. He was now vigilant toward Tai Su Tian. He hoped that Tai Su Tian would not target him. Divine Palace. Countless disciples gathered in the hall. They were densely packed and all stood in the same direction. In front of them, a figure stood on the steps. It was Zhu Tu. Zhu Tu wore a black robe and a curtained purple crown. He was very domineering. Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou stood among the disciples staring at him curiously. They were uniform and imposing. Zhu Tu said, "All of you are geniuses who have obtained the recognition of the Divine Palace. The calamity has arrived and there are many wars. I won't force you to participate. I hope that you can cultivate first and increase your strength before working for the Divine Palace. A dead genius is not a genius. I will open the barrier to the mystic realm. There are dangers and opportunities inside. What you can obtain will depend on yourselves. It's best that you stick together and not fight among yourselves. You'll find disciples from other factions inside the mystic realm. They're your enemies. Do you understand?" All the disciples replied in unison. Zhu Tu waved his right hand, and a strong light burst out from the top of the palace. A powerful suction force pulled at the robes of all the disciples. The disciples rushed into the strong light like a school of carps crossing the river. Zhu Tu looked up with anticipation. He muttered, "I hope you don't disappoint me." After the barrier closed, Zhu Tu turned around and sat down in front of the mat. He took out a book and formed hand seals with both hands. His dermic powers wrapped around the book. "We're about to succeed." Zhu Tu smiled. He planned to create a book of curses and pretend to be the Dark Forbidden Lord. At that time, he could rope in the Dark Sect and the factions who believed in the Dark Forbidden Lord. As for the Dark Forbidden Lord, he was not afraid at all. In the immeasurable calamity, not many were his match. It was even more impossible to defeat him with the power of curses. The Dark Forbidden Lord had never dared to show himself. There had to be a reason for that. Or perhaps he was not strong enough. At least, he wasn't strong enough to ignore the immortal world. 50 years passed quickly. In the past few years, no one had disturbed Hanju. He focused on cultivating, and his cultivation level increased very quickly. He was already about to break through. On this day, Hanju, who was cultivating, suddenly felt a fluctuation in the world of stars in the depths of his soul. He placed his consciousness on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. The Black Lotus was slowly blooming. Hanju raised his eyebrows. What did this mean? He probed with his divine sense. Other than endless negative karma, he couldn't sense anything unusual. He could only wait patiently. The 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus slowly bloomed. 36 petals bloomed, dazzling everyone. Hanju was pleasantly surprised to find that his absorption speed was also increasing. He retrieved his consciousness until it was outside the star and discovered that the other stars were absorbing negative karma. These stars were equivalent to Hanju's cells. Every star contained his vast dermic powers. Had his stellar primordial body improved again? Good news! He had already found the absorption rate to be too slow. Perhaps the stellar primordial body also needed to break through. After reaching a certain stage, it would transform further. That's right. Although his previous talent was very strong, Hanju felt that it was still lacking. The primordial physique had to have an unparalleled advantage compared to the chaotic physique. Hanju continued observing. When the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus completely bloomed, the billions of stars absorbed negative karma. Violent winds roared through the world of stars. Fortunately, the reroll world was protected by his dermic powers, or it would have been torn apart by negative karma. Hanju was overjoyed. The speed at which the negative karma transformed into his cultivation base was so fast. He looked again and saw that more than half of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus had been purified by the nebulous primordial chi. Not bad. Not bad. It seemed that it wouldn't be long before Hanju refined the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. At this moment, the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus shook violently, looking extremely irritable. Hanju sensed something and threw his primordial judgment sword into the world of stars. The primordial judgment sword was also shaking violently. Once it entered, it automatically flew towards the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. What happened? Hanju was nervous and expectant. The primordial judgment sword was refined from the nebulous primordial chi he carried when he transmigrated into the primordial space. It was his birth dharma treasure. As Hanju's cultivation level increased, it also became stronger. From the looks of it, the primordial judgment sword seemed to have a connection with the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. No! To the nebulous primordial chi. The nebulous primordial chi could purify the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. The primordial judgment sword refined from nebulous primordial chi was also affected. Hanju waited patiently. He had a feeling. A cheat might be appearing. No! It was time for explosive growth. Hanju had read the emails before. So many people who entered the calamity would obtain opportunities that far exceeded what they had before. Their cultivation speed would also increase. He had always been secretly envious. It was finally his turn to rise. Hanju was most concerned about the primordial judgment sword and the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. The two treasures overlapped each other. The primordial judgment sword stood above the heart of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and spun continuously. Most of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus had already been purified by the nebulous primordial chi and was gradually transforming into a purple lotus. Hanju was very satisfied. Other than his cultivation speed increasing, he could clearly sense that the primordial judgment sword and the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus were establishing a special connection. Although he didn't know what the connection was, he had a feeling that he would become stronger. Time passed. 8 years later, Hanju finally had the chance to break through. He chased Dao Comprehension Sword out and began to break through. With the Dao field around, there was no need to transcend the tribulation. In less than 3 years, he had successfully broken through. Rank 9 Immortal Emperor. Hanju's soul had reached an extremely perfect state. If his soul left his body, one could see a dazzling purple light shining from his soul. It was like a purple statue, crystal clear. His divine sense transformed and became stronger. Divine sense. Hanju felt that although his dermic powers were also increasing, they were not as strong as his divine sense. He looked forward to the deity realm even more. What was the deity realm? Hanju consolidated his cultivation while checking his attributes panel. Name, Hanju. Race, immortal, stellar primordial body. Cultivation, rank 9 reincarnation immortal emperor. Technique, primordial chaos reincarnation great Tao, heavenly cycle body tempering. Great Tao of life and death, great Tao of karma. 2 quadrillion years of lifespan. Boring! After Hanju broke through a few times, he was no longer interested in the increase in his lifespan. He needed more excitement. After 2 years, Hanju completely stabilized his cultivation. He continued cultivating, wanting to break through to the deity realm. After reaching the deity realm, he would increase his sword Dao mystical powers in one go. Hanju didn't even curse to celebrate. It could be seen how eager he was to reach the deity realm. On the other side, Immortal World, overseas, Golden Crab Island. Huang Zuntian was meditating in front of the waterfall and cultivating. His body emitted a golden aura that was visible to the naked eye. He was like a completely different person. Now, he was no longer an existence that could be bullied. The white crane suddenly landed behind him and said respectfully, Sect Master has summoned all the island masters to discuss something. Huang Zuntian opened his eyes and frowned. What? Do you know the inside story? The white crane replied, it's about supporting the heavenly court. Huang Zuntian frowned even harder. Were they about to enter the calamity? They were working for others. Huang Zuntian felt disdain for the Jie school and felt that it was becoming more and more cowardly. However, the sect master had ordered him to go. All right, I understand. I'll go, Huang Zuntian said. The white crane immediately flapped its wings and left. Huang Zuntian fell into endless worry. He had heard that the calamity was becoming more and more tragic. Countless living beings died every day, and even many mighty figures who shook the immortal world perished. No! If he entered the calamity rashly, even if he followed the Jie school, he would easily become cannon fodder. The heavenly court was the target of everyone. Huang Zuntian felt that he had to think of a way to at least increase his status. There were too many island masters. It wasn't a problem for hundreds of them to die. However, if he wanted to increase his status, he could only rely on cultivation. After all, the Jie school was the orthodox lineage of the Tao sect. It also emphasized impartiality and survival of the fittest. Looks like I have to use that treasure. Huang Zuntian's eyes flickered as he thought to himself. 20 years passed quickly. Hanju had been cultivating in seclusion and even forgot to curse the enemy. He only woke up when the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus was completely purified. In the depths of his soul, in the stars, the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus had already turned purple. It looked very similar to his soul, as if it was carved from crystal. The primordial judgment sword did not change forms, but it had become stronger. Hanju discovered that the two treasures seemed to be fused together like a twin Dharma treasure. He immediately tried to make the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus recognize him as its master. I knew it! After purification, it became very easy to make it recognize him as its master. 7 days later, the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus successfully acknowledged him as its master. Detected that this is your first time obtaining a heavenly Tao Supreme treasure. You have the following choices. 1. Immediately ascend and participate in the calamity to seize Providence. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance, a great Tao fragment, and a chance to upgrade the system. 2. Continue cultivating and stay away from the immeasurable calamity. You can obtain a great Tao fragment. Hanju chose the second option without hesitation. He checked the information of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus, heavenly Tao Supreme treasure. After being purified by the nebulous primordial chi, it is even stronger. Its defense can be said to be top-notch below the heavenly Tao. It can also increase cultivation speed. So impressive? Hanju immediately took out the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus and placed it on the bed. Sitting on the lotus throne and starting to absorb chi, he discovered that his cultivation speed had indeed increased greatly. Not only that, but even his body's negative karma absorption speed had also increased. What a treasure! Hanju placed the meditation cushion on the table. He should give it to Fairy Xishen. Immediately, Hanju entered the simulation trial and wanted to test the power of the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. First choice, Heavenly Emperor. After 5 minutes, he opened his eyes. He was pleasantly surprised. Even the Heavenly Emperor couldn't break through the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus's defense. However, Hanju was too weak and was killed in the aftermath. But that was enough. This thing could save his life. As expected of a heavenly Tao Supreme treasure, Hanju continued the simulation trial. Apart from Ancestor Shitian and the big shots in the first row, no one could break through the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus's defense. Even the big shots in the first row would take a long time to break through. As for Ancestor Shitian, with a wave of his hand, he insta-killed Hanju and the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. He couldn't win. In short, Hanju was still very happy. With this supreme treasure, his strength could be considered to have increased greatly. In a good mood, he took out the Book of Misfortune and prepared to celebrate. None of them could escape. Hanju decided to take out 2 billion years each. This was a huge surprise for them. First was the heavenly Tao Buddha. Under the dusk, in a huge valley, a faint Buddhist light emitted from the darkness. The heavenly Tao Buddha sat on the ground as a circle of light surrounded him. He suddenly frowned. Damn dark forbidden lord, you're messing with me again. Heavenly Tao Buddha was furious, but he had to endure it. He had already lost his mind. It wasn't easy for him to stabilize his inner demon. He didn't want to lose control again. Ever since Zhu Tu appeared, he did not dare to act recklessly. The Heavenly Emperor and the Demon Emperor couldn't kill him, but Zhu Tu could. The publicly acknowledged strongest person in the immortal world. It was precisely because of him that the Divine Palace could rise. No one dared to kill it in its cradle. If he couldn't find him, he would still suffer in the future. He couldn't understand. He had clearly left the Buddhist sect. Why was he still cursing him? What grudge did the Dark Forbidden Lord have with him? Was there a need to fight to the death? The Heavenly Tao Buddha just did not understand karma. Of course, if he encountered the Dark Forbidden Lord, who was weaker than him, he would definitely kill him. In the next few days, the curse power became stronger. The Heavenly Tao Buddha did not last long. Finally, he had gone mad again. The mental demon haunted him. Killing intent against the Dark Forbidden Lord occupied his mind. He wanted to release this killing intent. Your enemy Heavenly Tao Buddha has lost his mind because of your curse. Seeing this email, Hanju didn't stop. He had to deduct 2 billion years of his lifespan before he could stop. He wasn't afraid of cursing the Heavenly Tao Buddha to death. 6-star hatred points was too eye-catching. If he didn't kill this fellow, Hanju would never be at ease. When his lifespan was deducted by 2 billion years, Hanju immediately stopped. Perfect timing. Hanju suddenly realized that he didn't seem to be bleeding. It seemed that the recent transformation of the stellar primordial body was indeed effective. He recuperated his aura and continued cursing the Demon Emperor after resting for a few days. He also invested 2 billion years, but nothing happened to the other party. Nothing happened when he cursed Zhu Tu, either. Hanju was a little depressed. Could it be that these big shots had found a way to deal with the curse? It seemed that he had to find a chance to upgrade the Book of Misfortune. If he wanted to upgrade it, he had to keep grinding the system's choice missions. Hanju could only keep breaking through. He wouldn't go out and find trouble. Divine Palace, in a quiet palace. Zhu Tu suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. It seems that the Dark Forbidden Lord is not simple. Facing the curse of the Dark Forbidden Lord, he was the same as the other mighty figures. He could only deduce the Book of Misfortune and did not know its owner's appearance. Zhu Tu had no choice but to stop underestimating him. The Dark Forbidden Lord was indeed impressive. Since he had already offended the other party, Zhu Tu decided to confirm his identity. Humph, since you only dare to hide in the dark, don't even think about coming out. The corners of his mouth curled up. The current curse couldn't affect him. After spending 6 billion years cursing, Hanju continued cultivating. It looked like he was squandering, but in fact, Hanju didn't even spend a considerable amount of his lifespan. Sigh. Hanju felt that this was not a good thing. This would make him lose respect for his lifespan. Indeed, gambling would never end well. No matter what he gambled, it wouldn't end well. Hanju sighed in his heart. After the calamity ended, he would no longer curse people with his lifespan. That was unless the other party did not want to live. Time passed. The myriad worlds in the universe were all in a calamity. Other than the reroll world, almost all the worlds stirred up a world-destroying war. Negative karma overflowed from the myriad worlds and began to spread in the void as if darkness was devouring the myriad worlds. 40 years passed quickly. Hanju's cultivation had already reached the limit and couldn't increase anymore, but he couldn't find a way to break through to the deity realm for the time being. What was the deity realm? Hanju was in a dilemma. If he had known, he would have asked in the Great Ultimate Hall. He had no choice but to take out the Heavenly Tao token and ask the Heavenly Emperor how to break through to the deity realm. What? You're about to break through to the deity realm? Shocked, the Heavenly Emperor couldn't remain calm. Hanju said helplessly, I'm just asking. He knew that this was not trustworthy, but he could only ask the Heavenly Emperor. The Heavenly Emperor was silent for a long time. Hanju even thought that he had hung up, but then he replied, the breakthrough of the deity realm depends on the improvement of the soul. After reaching the deity realm, the body is no longer important. Even if the body is destroyed, you can recover with a thought. As for how to nurture the soul, you need the Great Tao. By using the Great Tao to nourish the soul and reach the point of fusion, you can reach the deity realm. However, the Great Tao grasped by the deity realm is only a derivation. Just like the Heavenly Tao of the immortal world and the Heavenly Tao of the mortal world, there are differences. It's said that sages can truly grasp a Great Tao. No cultivator who cultivates this particular Tao can disobey the sage. Hanju was secretly shocked. Were sages so ridiculous? Wait! Could it be that Ancestor Shitian wanted to control these listeners by preaching the Great Tao? How terrifying! He couldn't cultivate the Great Tao of Karma in the future. Hanju said, Thank you, Your Majesty. Although I'm still far from the deity realm, I won't forget your kindness when I reach it. The Heavenly Emperor said meaningfully, I hope so. I actually don't expect you to come out and help the Heavenly Court now. I hope that after this calamity is over, you will serve the Heavenly Court. At that time, you will definitely be as powerful as Li Daokong and Li Xian'eo. You don't have to worry about being harmed because you are already strong enough. I hope that you can become the pillar of the Heavenly Court, like the 4 extreme emperors. Of course, if I'm strong, I'll definitely ensure peace in the Heavenly Court. Hanju promised seriously. The Heavenly Emperor smiled and severed his divine sense connection. Hanju looked at the great Tao of life and death in his body. The great Tao of karma was too dangerous, he definitely could not cultivate it. But the great Tao of life and death was fine. He had obtained the great Tao of life and death a long time ago. Hanju had relied on it to reach the Emperor realm. In his opinion, there shouldn't be any sages who had grasped the great Tao of life and death. Otherwise, what was the point of continuing? That fellow could directly decide the life and death of all living beings. Hanju took out the great Tao of life and death and wrapped it around his soul. Enveloped by the great Tao of life and death, his soul felt warm one moment and cold the next. Could this be the legendary ice and fire? Hanju's thoughts drifted away and stopped in time as he continued to let the great Tao of life and death nourish his soul. After 3 years, he finally discovered a change. His soul was fusing with the great Tao of life and death. This fusion was not as simple as it seemed. Hanju showed his excitement. He had finally found a way to break through. Although this process was a little slow, he could wait. Tao Comprehension Sword returned to the cave abode and saw that Hanju was surrounded by black and white qi. She was already used to it. She came in front of him and called out softly, Master. Hanju didn't even open his eyes as he asked, What is it? There's something wrong with Chushuran. What? Hanju opened his eyes. What happened to this kid? He spread his divine sense and saw Chushuran cultivating under the Fusong tree. However, Buddhist light emitted from his body, making him look extremely solemn. The others discussed. He's a reincarnated person from the Buddhist sect? Sun Chang'an, do you know him? I don't know, but I feel like I've seen him somewhere. Let's make a guess. What identity did Chushuran have in the Buddhist sect in his previous life? Probably an Arhat. Can an Arhat have such talent? He's at least a Buddha. The disciples were very excited. Not one of them was afraid. Awakening the memories of their previous life would not devour the memories of this life. They were just fusing them. Murongqi, Sun Chang'an, and Su Qi had all awakened the memories of their previous lives, but they had not abandoned the hidden sect. He sensed that a powerful force was awakening in Chushuran's essence soul. It seemed that the Supreme Buddha was really about to awaken. That made sense. Chushuran had been cultivating diligently all these years, and his cultivation level had increased. It was time to awaken his memories of his previous life. Hanju was very curious. Would the Supreme Buddha continue to persuade others not to cultivate? He had already broken this rule himself. Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating. He wanted to reach the deity realm as soon as possible. A year later, Chushuran was completely awakened. He revealed the Buddhist appearance of the Supreme Buddha and had a solemn divine might. The disciples widened their eyes. Sun Chang'an seemed to recall something. With a thump, he knelt on the ground. He said with a trembling voice, Buddha. Buddha! Everyone was shocked. Especially Chushuran's disciple Zhou Mingyue, his vision darkened. Oh no! He would be bullied by his master in the future and would never be able to make a comeback. Lu Huaxu was also shocked. There were also legends of Buddhas in the mortal world. He never expected his master to be a Buddha. Diamond Rage shouted angrily, Supreme Buddha? Didn't he disappear? Why? He suddenly felt greater reverence for Hanju. Even the Buddha could be subdued? Chushuran was expressionless. The karma of my previous life has already become a thing of the past. In this life, we will talk about our seniority here. Sun Chang'an heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Shiren slowly stood up and looked at the Khanate cave abode. He frowned slightly. The other disciples became nervous. This was a Buddha, after all. If he attacked Hanju, it would definitely be a fierce battle. Chu Shiren suddenly bowed to the Khanate cave abode and walked to the edge of the cliff to sit down and continue cultivating. Everyone looked at each other and did not dare to disturb Chu Shiren. The black-held chicken came behind him and shouted, "Brat! You're actually a Buddha. You even said that it's better not to cultivate. If you don't cultivate, how can you be the Buddha? You're so despicable." The black-held demon lord hesitated. Chu Shiren rolled his eyes and said angrily, "I was wrong in the past. Is there a problem?" Sun Chang'an was dumbfounded, suspecting that he had heard wrong. The Supreme Buddha, who had been constantly persuading the other three Buddhas, actually admitted that his previous ideals were wrong. Impossible! Sun Chang'an immediately thought of something. Could it be that Hanju had done something to Chu Shiren? That was very likely. Chu Shiren shouldn't have completely awakened the memories of the Supreme Buddha. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Hanju's image in Sun Chang'an's heart became even more mysterious. Although he had been cultivating on the island all these years, he felt that Hanju was getting further and further away from them. This feeling stimulated him to cultivate diligently. Humph, cultivate well. Since you're the Buddha, quickly recover your cultivation from your previous life. The hidden sect still needs to rely on you disciples. We can't always let my big brother and the old magus help us. The black-held chicken snorted, acting like he was the master of the hidden sect. Diamond Rage was furious. How many times have I told you? Don't call me old magus. With the black-held chickens posturing, the atmosphere eased. The others also went up to talk to Chu Shiren. Chu Shiren did not ignore them either. He answered whatever was asked. As the communication increased, the former Chu Shiren seemed to have returned. 10 years later, Hanju took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed the enemy. His soul was still being nourished by the great Tao of life and death. He didn't need to watch this process carefully. He estimated that in at most 50 years, the great Tao of life and death and his soul would completely fuse. At that time, he would step into the deity realm. Hanju cursed as he checked his emails regularly. Your Tao companion Xian Qingjun has joined the darkness sect. Her providence has increased greatly. Your good friend Ji Xianshan was attacked by demons, X310032. Your grand disciple Fang Liang was attacked by a demon saint. His cultivation has increased. Your good friend Divine General has obtained an ancient inheritance. His providence has increased greatly. Because of your curse, the zenith heaven Tao fruit of your enemy demon emperor cracked. Your good friend Li Daokong has stepped into the heavenly Tao and severed his karma. Your good friend Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Huang Zuntian has fused with the blood of the ancient Qilin. His bloodline has transformed and his cultivation has increased greatly. Hanju raised his eyebrows. Why did Shen Qingjun join the darkness sect? His wife had submitted to the enemy? Hanju was a little unhappy, but he couldn't control the immortal world. No, the darkness sect had to be punished. Hanju still remembered that the leader of the darkness sect was Xue Mingyi, who escaped from the Nine Nether Purgatory. He noticed that Li Daokong had stepped into the heavenly Tao and severed his karma. This was too ridiculous. As expected of a mighty figure who wanted to take him in as a disciple. No wonder he dared to be so reckless before. After wandering for so long, he severed the karma and started from the beginning? It was unknown if he had severed his karma with the human school. If Hanju was Li Daokong, he would definitely do it. Otherwise, Li Xianao would become his weakness. In Hanju's opinion, Li Xianao was far inferior to Li Daokong. Li Xianao had been severely injured various times before, but not Li Daokong. As for Huang Zuntian, why was he becoming more and more powerful? Hanju only wanted to give it a try at first. He didn't expect this fellow to still be stubborn and become stronger. Will he become the sect master of the GS school the next time we meet? Hanju wasn't afraid that he would betray him. There was a six paths insignia in the depths of Huang Zuntian's soul. The six paths insignia became stronger with Hanju. Unless Huang Zuntian directly surpassed him, he could forget about betraying him. Hanju continued to read the emails. Many people had obtained opportunities. Unfortunately, you still can't compare to me. Hanju often paid attention to his friends and interpersonal relationships. No one cultivated faster than him. Although he was proud, he was not arrogant. There was no point in comparing speed. Cultivation was the most important. A month later, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune and asked in his heart, I want to know who is cursing the Heavenly Emperor. 100 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Hanju closed his eyes. Several breaths later, he opened his eyes. Damn it! It was Zutu again. What happened? He was so strong, yet he still cursed others? Trying to pretend to be me? Hanju was annoyed. He couldn't allow Zutu to hurt his heavenly emperor. Your Majesty, for you, I've decided to risk it. Hanju thought to himself. He picked up the Book of Misfortune and continued cursing. This time, he had to curse Zutu until something happened. After cursing for 5 days, Hanju's lifespan began to decrease. He kept staring at his attributes panel. His lifespan decreased faster and faster as he increased the intensity of the curse. 100 million years. 1 billion years. 2 billion years. 5 billion years. Hanju stopped. His face was already covered in blood. He asked the system, did something happen to Zutu? He had no interpersonal relationship with Zutu, so he couldn't see information about him in the emails. 100 million years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? No. Hanju didn't care anymore. He tried his best, anyway. He would find a chance to tell the Heavenly Emperor about Zutu cursing him. Divine Palace. Boom! A palace shook violently. The guards outside looked at each other. They were extremely nervous, but they did not dare to barge in. In the hall, Zutu's expression darkened. Damn dark forbidden lord. He cursed me every 10 years. This time, he used even more strength. Zutu panicked. Would the darkness forbidden lord's curse become stronger next time? Although he was fine now, if this was not the dark forbidden lord's limit. Hanju's soul finally fused with the great Tao of life and death. He was about to welcome the opportunity to break through. He chased Tao Comprehension Sword out, and she left the cave abode with an understanding expression. Hanju took a deep breath. Deity realm. Here I come. Hanju was very excited. It was almost at the level when he first reached the immortal realm. He began to comprehend the primordial chaos reincarnation Great Tao. This cultivation technique was a Great Tao cultivation technique. He could only comprehend different realms as his cultivation level increased. Now, he wanted the method to break through to the deity realm. Hanju's soul flew out from his head. His soul was bright, and purple light shone in the cave. The breakthrough began. As Hanju comprehended the primordial chaos reincarnation Great Tao, all sorts of true meanings regarding the deity realm surged into his mind. Deity realm. Above all living beings. The deity realm was not divided into 9 ranks like the emperor realm, but 1 to 6 mystic. 1 mystic divine origin. 2 mystic divine origin. Until 6 mystic divine origin. When the 6 mystics gathered, he would become Zenith Heaven. Heavenly Court, Numinous Palace, Gathering of Gods. The Heavenly Emperor sat on the Emperor's throne. In the front row of the hall stood Li Daokong, Li Xianao, the Divine General, the Martial God General, the Heavenly Duke of the Jie School, and the mighty figures of the Chan School. The Divine General smiled and said, Your Majesty, another war god has come to challenge the Heavenly God General. He hasn't been defeated after more than 10,000 times. He's not far from becoming the heavenly Tao War God, right? The other immortals smiled. Ever since the heavenly god general announced to the world that he wanted to fight for the war god title at the heavenly gate, many years had passed. He had always been fighting and had never lost. It was precisely because of him that the prestige of the heavenly court had soared. This was also one of the important reasons why the Tao sect supported them. Non. Yi. The heavenly emperor smiled and said, "The heavenly god general is working so hard. You can't relax. Next, you should attack the demon court. As long as the demon court doesn't appear, there will be endless trouble in the heavenly court. Now, the demon court has already become the greatest force wreaking havoc in the immortal world. Destroying them will increase the heavenly court's providence." The immortals agreed one after another, their faces filled with confidence. The current heavenly court was really different. After obtaining the support of the Tao sect, they were the strongest force in the immortal world. Jing Tiangong suddenly asked, "Your Majesty, the Divine Palace's Zhu Tu is the Dark Forbidden Lord now. Do you think that's true?" The Heavenly Emperor said calmly, "With Zhu Tu's cultivation level, why would he be the Dark Forbidden Lord? Why would he choose to expose his identity now? It's obvious that he only wants to rope in the believers of the Dark Forbidden Lord. If you were Zhu Tu, what reason would you have to be the Dark Forbidden Lord?" Jing Tiangong nodded. He didn't believe it, either. He had interacted with Zhu Tu in the past. This person was extremely arrogant. He could have directly attacked the Demon Emperor and the Heavenly Tao Buddha, so why did he have to do this? He had never heard of Zhu Tu being good at curses, either. How could Zhu Tu be the Dark Forbidden Lord he worshipped? In his eyes, the Dark Forbidden Lord was mysterious and powerful. He was filled with wisdom and strategies. He didn't want fame, only benefits. Such a mighty figure was what he pursued. Li Daokong suddenly said, "Your Majesty, I'm willing to challenge Zhu Tu to a battle." The Heavenly Emperor glanced at him and shook his head. "You're still young. Zhu Tu's strength is not something you can imagine." Li Daokong smiled and said, "Is that so? Then, I want to fight him even more now." Beside him, Li Xianao said in a strange tone, "My good senior brother, don't die and implicate me." "I doubt it." Hee, you're really confident." "It's not confidence. It's the truth." Humph. The immortals were already used to seeing the two of them bickering. At that moment, a heavenly soldier suddenly flew into the hall. "Report a large number of vengeful spirits have appeared outside the South Heaven Gate. The Divine Palace is attacking." Whoosh! The immortals were in an uproar. They were still discussing how to deal with the demon court, and now the Divine Palace attacked. Tao Sovereign's expression was unnatural. He loved and hated the Divine Palace. Li Daokong laughed. Perfect timing. With that, he disappeared. Li Xianao hurriedly followed. After 17 years, Hanju finally broke through. One mystic divine origin. Hanju's soul sublimated and his divine sense swept out. Fortunately, he remembered that the primordial Yuan Phoenix was still in the Nine Nether Purgatory, so he retracted his divine sense. The dermic powers in his body had also undergone a qualitative transformation. This was a higher-level dermic power, also known as divine origin. Origin was the source of all things. Divine was high and mighty. Divine origin dermic powers. Hanju felt the transformation brought by the deity realm and was immersed in it. He felt as if he had been reborn. Compared to before, he was like an immortal. What a wonderful feeling! It was as if he could control everything. His divine sense could even sense the omnipresent space and time. He was omnipotent. When Hanju woke up from this wonderful feeling, he opened his eyes and opened his attributes panel to see his current lifespan. Name, Hanju. Race, Primordial Fiend Celestial. Cultivation, One Mystic Divine Origin. Technique, Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao. Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering. Great Tao of life and death, Great Tao of karma. 9.9 quadrillion years of lifespan. It was about to break through the horizon. Not only that, but his race had also changed. Primordial fiend celestial? Interesting. Hanju was overjoyed. What a long lifespan. It was almost eternal life. Hanju suppressed his surprise and continued to consolidate his cultivation. 2 years later, 3 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of him. Detected that you have reached the deity realm and have transformed into a primordial fiend celestial. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately and fight for the providence of the immeasurable calamity. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance and a great Tao fragment. 2. Stay true to your heart and continue cultivating. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a chance to upgrade the system. This dog system finally stopped tempting him to go out. Hanju happily chose the second option. System upgrade. Just slowly level up. Hanju closed his eyes and started to comprehend the Sword Tao mystical powers, preparing to raise his strength to the limit. On that day, he directly jumped into the Sword Tao River and began to step forward. Zhang Guxing guarded the Sword Tao River. When he saw Hanju appear, he couldn't help but smile. You! Wait! Zhang Guxing widened his eyes. Hanju's consciousness formed a purple figure that emitted a terrifying and oppressive aura that made him shiver. This aura! Only the Divine Palace's Divine Emperor had it. Could it be that this kid had stepped into the deity realm? Impossible! How many years had it been? Zhang Guxing was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. He could be said to have watched Hanju grow up. He had stepped into the deity realm from a mortal in a little more than 4,000 years? Is this kid the reincarnation of a mighty figure? Did he want to train in the mortal world? Hanju focused on breaking through. He continued forward, and soon, there were no other figures around. Finally, he saw the mysterious figure again, as if it was standing at the end of the Sword Tao, waiting for him. Hanju had already guessed this fellow's identity. It looked very close, but Hanju took more than 10,000 steps before arriving in front of him. The mysterious figure turned around and looked at him. He smiled and said, "It's really you. I didn't see wrongly." The mysterious figure was Li Daokong.